May the words of my mouth and the meditation of our hearts be always pleasing in your sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. There is a question I often return to at this time of our liturgical cycle. And the question is the crucifixion the penultimate chapter in the story of the resurrection? Or is the resurrection a neat tidying up of the story of the crucifixion? Is it a divine narrative plot so that we get a Hollywood ending to a tragic story where everything finishes happily? It's a question worth pondering. But what I want to say today is, what if the answer is no? Clearly there is a link between these events. There's a chain that ties them together in history. It starts, well, we could start it with Mary, the birth of Jesus. Because without that event, there's no baptism, the inauguration into Jesus' ministry to proclaim boldly the kingdom of God. And without that ministry, without that proclamation, there would be no conspiracy to have him crucified. And without the conspiracy, there's no crucifixion. Without the crucifixion, there's no death, no entombment, and no entombment, no resurrection. Clearly, there is a causal chain. But our seeing of that sometimes means we miss something. In modern Western society, we are trained to think in terms of systems, forces, levers. We have a system of democracy. We have economic forces. We see the world in terms of objects, not subjects. So much so that we can see other people and treat them as if they're objects rather than beings with whom we might interact. For this moment, I want to take seriously this event. And I have to be honest and say, I failed. Like a moth drawn to a lamp, I kept in my thoughts and reflections returning to the resurrection. But let's try. Let's try and take seriously this event of the crucifixion of Jesus. And I want to start off with what it might have been like to be crucified. Jesus has been betrayed by one of his close friends. He's been betrayed by the community to whom he has been coming and preaching and proclaiming God. In one of the other Gospels, in Matthew, we hear Jesus saying, Eloi, Eloi, lema sabachthani, my God, why have you forsaken me? On the cross, he experiences a sense of isolation and separation even from God. In the Gospel we had read today, Jesus on the cross takes those broken relationships and repairs them for others when he says to his mother, here is your child, and to his beloved disciple, probably John, here is your mother. He experiences absolute isolation in that event. And there is a profound commonality in that. So many of us in our own daily lives experience a sense of being separated from the people around us. Our pain is unique to us. Isolation makes us different from everyone else around us. Our unique genius is not appreciated by the people around us. If you go to Port Arthur in Tasmania, it's an oddly confronting place. It's beautiful, but it's an old prison. And the prison is split into two sections. One section was horrific and barbaric, and the other one was dehumanizing. Because in one place, they would jam the prisoners in and they were treated cruelly, and in the other, everyone was isolated. The guards wore slippers so that as they walked, they made no sound. Prisoners were not allowed to communicate. They were cut off from every other human being around them. There was no physical torture. That was the one that they feared. Now we could spiritualize this sense of isolation. We could psychologize it. We could think about what it does to the human psyche. We'll just take a moment to appreciate that in this very common human experience, God has joined us. And then Jesus died. This is something we all face. None of us get out of this alive. And it's not just human beings. A time will come when even our sun will die. It'll run out of fuel, it'll collapse, it'll explode. Scientists are pretty sure they know how much life expectancy roughly our entire universe has before it is gone. Death is ubiquitous. And then we have some choices with that piece of information. Western society tends to fall into one of two categories. Either we fight it, and we are good at fighting death. We have institutions set up to push it back, to hold it off, and they do a fantastic job. Our hospitals, our doctors, our nurses, they are amazing at what they do. We fight it. Or alternatively, we run away and we pretend it doesn't happen. And we get collagen implants and we behave like teenagers when we're in our 30s and 40s and stuff like that. Death will never come for me. I'm too tough. Or when I was a teenager, perhaps too self-confident and perhaps stupid. However, we have a third option. We have a third option. We don't have to run from it per se, and we aren't obliged to fight back. We can do as Christ did and embrace it. By which I'm not talking about hurrying it on. I'm not talking about bringing death on early. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about embrace the reality that a time will come when you and I are dead. And that gives us some options. There's some very simple and practical options means when we make our long-term plans. We're not making our long-term plans. We're making long-term plans for the future of our community and for our children, and for their children, our grandchildren. Because we're going to die. So let's take that seriously when we think about what's happening in the future. That's a psychological answer to that question. But there is also a spiritual answer. And that's the tomb. Because as I said, the light of the resurrection, it keeps drawing us back, doesn't it? Even on this day, the resurrection light shines. And the light doesn't tell us what we're going to face. But what it does do is assure us that no matter what, even into our own deaths, we know with whom we will face it. We will face it with Christ, who died and rose again.